Welcome to the Real Board Loft. I'm Trip Forman, and today we want to talk about the Lost Rad Ripper and the new Lost Ripper. We actually had someone chime in on our Instagram and ask what's the difference, and even like kind of more fine-tuned, they wanted to look at the boards this way and check out the difference in the foil and the rocker, if there was any difference in those two as well. So let's dig into it. First, we're going to talk about the Rad Ripper. This board's been in the Lost lineup for quite a while, developed with Kolohe, Andino, and Biolos, and kind of a retro 80s throwback shortboard, but then modernized. Started out with a slow burn, and then it just kept getting more and more and more popular as years went on, which is actually kind of the opposite that new models do. They're normally really popular, then they get less popular over time, but this one just kept growing over time. So what people like about this board is it's very accessible, very easy to surf, has a lot of built-in speed and built-in drive. And then so for an average surfer or a upper intermediate surfer, all of them had an easy time surfing well on it and surfing better on it, and also loves small waves, average waves, up to medium waves. And even Koa Smith was ripping on this thing, getting the longest barrels ever at Skeleton Bay. Set up as a 5-fin, you can ride it thruster or quad. Has beak in the nose. It has a wing, a fluted wing coming back here to a wide blocked squash tail. Pretty flat deck as well, and then the rail falls off about right where my fingers are the whole way down the board. Let's talk about the new Ripper. And before we leave the Rad Ripper is still in the lineup for those of you that want it, because there will be a lot of people that want it. We don't see this board dying out because it's just got so much momentum and such a cult following. So talking about the Ripper, Kolohe and Matt went back to the drawing board. They wanted to take everything they liked about the Rad Ripper and modernize it. So you see similar dimension sets, but a much more modern approach to the overall board. So starting from the nose, there's a little bit more nose rocker to make the board fit into like really tight spaces in the wave. The nose is narrowed up just a little bit. You can see that the fluted wing is gone, and then there's just a little, what they would call a bump wing right here that goes back into, again, a generous squash tail, although not as wide as the Rad Ripper. You still want to maintain like that small to medium wave performance, and so there's enough there for small to medium wave, but it's not as wide as the Rad Ripper. Overall, there's a little bit more dome to the deck, so rather than having the deck be and I think probably holding it this way, so rather than the deck being flat and then coming off like that at an angle, it is more like kind of performance shortboard oriented, where there's a little bit more dome to the deck and then a nice foil on the rail. You can see in the nose with the more nose rocker and the narrow and more narrow, and the width of the nose a little bit more narrow. It also, the beak is now gone, so it's just a standard foil out the end of the nose. The tail is also thinner going out the back of the board. These boards, both of them, for the performance surfers like advanced and professional level surfers, they like being ridden off the tail really aggressively and can generate a lot of speed and a lot of spring off the lip. For the intermediates that are surfing it, super accessible shortboard, very, very easy to surf and very easy to progress and advance your skill on. Immediately, like seeing these things in person, it reminded us of like the original Baby Buggy, which was a very like everyone's all-around shortboard model before everything like kind of tended to drift in the competition focus. The Ripper, really easy to surf dimensions, going to have a really good wave range as far as like types of waves and sizes of waves that you can surf it in. And by taking the retro feel and the retro look out of the board, it puts it in a more performance realm without being too performance. So if you look at the original Lost Baby Buggy with the original dimension sets, or if you look at a Channel Islands Happy Every Day, this board would kind of fit in that same range, although obviously having Kolohe's input and Matt's input and a lot of the Rad Ripper DNA. Going back to that last question, or actually the first question, which is why this all came to be, is looking at the foils. So looking at the board on the rail, you can see the a little bit additional nose rocker up front. You can see the beak on the Rad Ripper and then no beak on the Ripper. You can see a little bit more width on the nose on the Rad Ripper, a little bit less on the Ripper. And then obviously looking at the tail, you can see the wing. I'll give this a little toe point. You can see the wing right here on the Rad Ripper, and then just a very subtle bump wing, or bump wing squash on the Ripper. So those are the differences, and both really good boards. And this very well may be Lost's best-selling shortboard this year, the Lost Ripper, just because of following in the footsteps of the Baby Buggy, which was hugely successful and not 100% tied to competition. It just had a really long lifespan and a really big following. The Rad Ripper will continue to exist, will continue to be rad and retro and loud, and people will continue to love it. So we got them both at Reel. If you have any questions on either, or would like to place an order for a stock Ripper or Rad Ripper or custom order, you can always reach us at the shop, 252-987-6000, or look us up online, realwatersports.com/surfing. Thanks for tuning in.